Yeah, and then the other thing is I don't like a guy with tattoos or a guy who's this height or whatever. And when they're attracted to that guy, they break all the rules for that dude. That's another thing I think a lot of men don't grasp. And women are confusing to men when they say things like that. Here's the thing for the gentlemen out there who are watching this. The reason why Adolfo becomes so popular and Alex Costa, and the reason why, FitX Fearless and all these other guys that are in this space become so popular is because they get it and they're teaching you to get it. Women want you to get it, and women are never going to teach you what that means to get it. If you didn't have a dad in your life or a male role model who taught you how to get it, for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, there's a certain level of calibration women expect from you. They expect for you to know things, and they don't have to tell you. Women say this all the time. It's one of the most unhealthy things you can hear in a relationship, but I hear women say this all the time, where they're like, I shouldn't have to ask him. The reason, there's this thing in women where they'll meet a guy, and it's way more romantic if they just bumped into him, and it just feels like things happened organically. They want you to just automatically be attractive to them and just know exactly what stimulates them. And the reality is, guys, if you just follow their advice, women's advice, they're going to give you terrible advice. But if you follow what they do, if you actually pay attention to what they do and not their advice, it's way clearer. So like what he said before was, and I do this also, I will ask women frequently, I'll be like, when you met your boyfriend, how long did it take before you slept with him? What was the reason why? I do ask questions like that, but it's way better. The information is way better. The data is way better when you pay attention to what people do and not what they say they're going to do. And that goes for pickup artists too. Like I've heard too many PUAs say that they bang a bunch of 10s and then I go out with them and it's like, these guys are terrible with
Don't even
women.
get me started on that.
Go ahead.
That was such a disappointment. Like when you get started back in 2016 and 17 and see all of these guys claiming about these nines that they're dating and this and that. And then like some years later, when you actually meet them and you see the girls that they actually date, you're like, what is this? Like, this is a 5, bro. Like, where on earth is this a 9? That was one of the biggest disappointments I had with like the
Yeah,
UA.
it's
With
crazy.
like the quality that they were claiming and the reality that you see when you actually meet them.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest things. I know some PUAs who've dated some very beautiful women, and they all dated them because I introduced them to those women. It's like one of the ironies is that it was social circle. It wasn't cold approach.
I know of some examples that you're talking about. Yeah.
Find hot girls and then look at the guys they're dating. This, for some reason, seems to escape most men, but it was probably 2007, 2008, where I was like working with Mystery and Matador and like the Venusian Arts guys. This is before I met the RSD guys. And then I would go out with these nightclub promoters. And these guys would have like the hottest girlfriends I've ever seen, and they would show up to a club with like 70 girls. And I remember these guys were saying one thing, but it wasn't happening. And these guys were saying something, and I was like, dude, I want to see what these guys are doing. And so one thing I started noticing is that whenever I saw a girl who was my type, instead of trying to hit on her, I try to like reverse engineer what her boyfriend was. And you mentioned the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of times it's not what you expect. That's something I can guarantee. A lot of times it's not like what guys expect, but a lot of times you end up realizing that the guys they actually date have different traits than what you would expect.
Yeah. But just watching the way they like, one of the things I told my clients is like, if you're going to wear a shirt, you need to tell me the exact guy who's good with women who wore that shirt. And the same thing with the haircut. And I don't mean in general, not because you saw something in a magazine. Who's the exact guy that you saw have success with that? And then, like you said before, copy. When we talked about in the beginning, be humble and copy. So when you copy that, I've just found that was the most magnificently, I still remember these guys, probably 1999, I went out, there's this one girl I went on like one date with, she just totally blew me off. She shows up to my bar with another guy, and this guy is like shorter than her, and he's just kind of like, he looks like a roughneck, and he was the most confident I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, and I became best friends with the guy. I was like, I need to figure out what I'm missing here. Cause I'm 20 years old at the point. Like, I don't know. This happened several times in my life where instead of seeing a guy, rule number 5 in my program is we don't talk shit about people behind their back. If someone's doing better than us, we need to learn from them. There were several points in my life where I would see a guy and he would get the girl I liked, and it really like it churned up something in me. But instead of making that into jealousy and hate, I turned that into like curiosity and motivation.
Just like you said, it goes back to just copying and being good at copying. And then you come up with your own thing. But first, model, like find a couple of role models, like a good exercise for anyone watching. I know people watching this podcast, they like practical tips that they can implement straight away. Go on Instagram, go on like these Instagram models that you follow and see the ones that have a boyfriend, and do a compilation, an Excel sheet of like Instagrams of the guys they're dating.
Yes.
and then do a file and like a Word file and put pictures of these guys. Put a compilation. What's their style look like? What do they have tattoos? What's the hairstyles? And then you do compilation of hairstyles, compilation of style, compilation of tattoos they have. All of this, and you're going to start noticing the trends, and that's how you come up with your own thing, with your own style. And this is, something that anyone watching can do that is looking to improve their daily life,
Yeah.
for example.
For those of you listening, this might sound like a lot of work. And the thing is, you just really got to do it once. That's why I actually love. I did one time. I asked probably 40, 50 girls what their favorite cologne was, and I had like a spreadsheet written out for it. And it seems like a lot of work, but you just do it once, and then you just kind of know. My favorite one of all was she's a 10, but she goes to Miami once a month with no explanation.
Yeah, man, I've lived in Miami for like 3 months back in 21. That's like the first time I went to Miami. Man, dating there is a pain in the ass. Like if you want to find a girlfriend there, you're going to have like a tough time unless you're like a big player. You're gonna have a tough time.
Yeah, it's always a bigger, better deal. It's one of the things we don't have in Vegas that they have in Miami is the come on my yacht. We don't have that in Vegas. In Vegas, we have the come to my table. But the thing is, like, other people can come to your table too, right? Everybody's going to the same area in the same nightclubs. Whereas in Miami, you guys have this, like, there's this thing where guys just big up one another with Lamborghinis and yachts. So it makes things a little difficult.
Most guys have the idea that girls, because that's what you see online. You see people bashing people that date younger girls and
Yeah.
everything. And when I asked girls like what's the ideal age that they like dating, like girls in their early 20s, like 19, 20, 21, most of them were saying, oh, 30, 35 plus. I didn't expect them to be that upfront. Like I knew that, but I didn't thought that so many of them would be saying that on camera, that they like girls they are guys 30, 35 plus, 40 even. So that was not a surprise, but I was quite amazed that so many of the girls agreed on that point.
Yeah, I thought that's really interesting too because of how controversial that is. I'm 20. I'm 46. My girlfriend's 22, so she's 24 years younger than me. And it was one of these situations. By the way, we didn't know how old each other was. I thought she was older. She thought I was younger when we met. But it was one of these situations where like I know when I meet really attractive women and I ask them, they're dating guys that are significantly older. But then you read the studies and they're like, well, women prefer men that are 3 years older than them. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. Like, I really do think most women find The Rock. Maybe not most, but a good number of women find The Rock attractive at 51, and that was something that I thought was interesting. When you were asking these women, it was like 50 was too old, but for The Rock it was okay, so they would make exceptions.
Exactly. So I think there's also biological age. So
Yes.
your girlfriend, she likes you because you don't look 46. Let's be honest. Like your biological age is much less than 46. I think that there's a big factor that comes into play on how you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
In your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. That led to The Rock now being who he is at 50, 52, wherever he is, and most girls in the world like him because he took care of himself. But of course, these same girls, for another guy that didn't took care of himself, they wouldn't like that guy. 51, 52, you know what I mean?
One thing I've noticed is that you ask a girl what they like and they tell you what they like from a guy they're attracted to, but they don't tell you, like, there seems to be this mismatch of words. It's like when women say, I want a guy to bring me flowers, they want a guy they're attracted to bring them flowers. And when they say, I want a guy to be more emotional with me, they want a guy they're attracted to be more emotional. And I think because women leave that context out, it's confusing to men.
Yeah, and then there's things that end up hurting you, like you shoot yourself in the foot if you're, a low value guy. Maybe you're doing certain things and being too nice, and like that they were not talking about you. They were talking about Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
If that to them, not you with like a 9 to 5 job at Subway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then the other thing is I don't like a guy with tattoos or a guy who's this height or whatever. And when they're attracted to that guy, they break all the rules for that dude. That's another thing I think a lot of men don't grasp. And women are confusing to men when they say things like that. My favorite is I only date nice guys, and then you ask about their last 3 boyfriends and they were all narcissists, and they're like, but you just said you only date nice guys. It's like one of those things where it gets kind of confusing. When you talk about looks maxing, there's a lot of guys that are what's called black pill guys, and these are people who believe that women only care about a man's looks and nothing else. And they're very nihilistic, sometimes very negative. And one of the biggest ones that they come up with is height. and you've mentioned this before, like what a guy, you've gone up to women before and you ask them, he's a 10, but he's shorter than you. He's a 10, you mentioned height. Height seems to be like the big one where there's a lot of limiting beliefs from men. What are your overall beliefs about this?
My thought is like, let's say you want to have a beautiful wife or a beautiful girlfriend, and you use height as an excuse. That would be the same thing as a guy that wants to be an athlete saying that like he can't play basketball because he's 5'7". There is so many other sports, and there is so many other girls that are gonna like you with the height that you have, right? There is girls that are 5'2", they wouldn't like a 6'2" guy, right? So there is always a pool of girls that will like you for the height you have. So I think no guy should use that as an excuse, because there's girls out there that are gonna like you with your height, and that's the first. And of course, like, focus on what you can control, and take your focus out of what you can't control, if that makes sense.